Many of y'all have requested that I make a video ranking all of the CTR tracks, and finally, I believe the day has come to do so. However, as the style of ranking video has been done a lot by a lot of people, I will only be taking into account how the levels feel and play from an advanced time trialer or speedrunner perspective, due to there being a ton of videos already that detail the tracks from a casual perspective. So, with that being said, here we go. Ranking all the Crash Team Racing tracks, starting now. Crashco. Maybe I've been numbed by how much of this track I've played over the years due to it being the very start of the speedrun, of course, but even as a kid this track never really stood out to me. Limited strategy to save time besides the SG at the very start, and the really cool time trial shortcut though, I guess. Besides those two things, there's not really much to say about this one, I'm afraid. C tier. Ruse Tubes. The first boss level and the first level with a real abundance of strats, namely downhill speed ghosts. At times that can really feel like that's all that matters, which can be frustrating on an off day, but feels incredible if you get a really nice lap where everything comes together nicely. I've always had a soft spot for this track, except for when you get missiled through the roof, of course. B tier. Mystery Caves. Another SG level very similar to Ruse Tubes in that regard actually. AI very rarely interfere in this level though, unlike in Tubes, which is really sweet from a speedrunning standpoint. And time trial wise, it's very fun as well, with the 3 back-to-back turbo pad ramps in the middle of the level, giving easy attempts at back-to-back SGs, as well as having harder SG opportunities as well, like at the start, which can be very fun. B tier, but higher than Ruse Tubes. Sewer Speedway. I'm sure you can see a theme here with Insanity Beach tracks, but yet another track dependent on speed ghosts at the top level. Also probably the funnest level so far when everything goes your way. Barrows can be a nuisance for new players of course, but once you understand how they work, which all speedrunners and time trialers should do at some point, there is no issue. Sick intended shortcut as well, which gives you the freedom to fall off it, which helps with lines. One of the better intended shortcuts in the game in my opinion, unlike in Nitro Fueled of course, where it doesn't goddamn work. Nice SGs as well. A tier. Tiger Temple. The story of a nice track ruined by a shortcut based entirely around luck. This is hell for any speedrunner due to the cut, but as for time trialers, it can be quite nice due to the grass SG and no need for the RNG shortcut, I suppose. God damn it, I hate this track. Put it in D tier, why not? Coco Park. A really nice track for any person starting out with the game, but still allows for some top level variance in play, due to all of the grass shortcuts and downhill SGs that come with them. Nothing offensive, but nothing amazing. This one was quite quick to script, believe it or not. Middle of the road. C tier. Papu's Pyramid. This track is, in my opinion, the best track so far. It's incredibly fun to speedrun. There is a billion different tricks at your disposal, a billion different strats for all different character classes, and of course I must mention the Tiziano shortcut. One of the most satisfying shortcuts to pull off in the game. This track is the best so far on this list. S tier. Bingo Canyon. A track that certainly lends itself to top level speedruns and time trialing rather than the standard player. This track is full of tough optimizations, mainly the lake section and the sand shortcut at the start of the level. I think being wedged between both Papu's visits in the adventure mode speedrun takes away from how people view this track sadly. But hey, at least it is the home of the best character in Crash history though, and that's a fact of life. Sorry I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. B tier. Blizzard Bluff. First track of the third hub world and it does not disappoint. Who knew it was possible to fit so many shortcuts into such a small track? Similar to Canyon, this track lends itself to the advanced player, more so than the beginner due to all the before mentioned SCs, a theme that will persist throughout Glacier Park. A tier. Dragon Mines. This track might just be the perfect example of a track that gets funner the more you play and the better you get. Casually it's tough due to the middle portion of the track demanding you know how to U-turn to play it fast. However, at the top levels of play that is expected, and therefore it flows very well. Minecart cycles can be tough, especially for time trialers, but overall this track is still a blast to play when all goes well due to the niche tech such as the quad jump, the minecart shortcut, as well as keeping track of cycles and where they are. B tier. Polar Pass. Incredibly well-made track that lends itself to all types of skill levels. A great test for new players due to ice physics, narrow path, seal cycles, and the intended wall shortcut, whilst being a fun level for time trialers and speedrunners due to the boomerang shortcut. I cannot say enough good things about this track. The perfect test for all skill levels, but similar to Dragon Mines in the sense that it feels more rewarding the better that you get at it. S tier. Tiny Arena. Listen, if you know me and you know this game, this track is F tier. But for the sake of everyone who doesn't know, this track is good. A really good test of your fundamentals and knowledge of how CTR physics work due to all the mounds in the road, which you can either SG off or go really slow over depending on if you play it right. However, yes, we must address the elephant in the room here. It's an incredibly polarizing skip, but you either love or hate. And personally, I absolutely love it and believe it gives CTR even more depth in the speedrun, but some would disagree. It is what it is. Beat it. Engine Labs. The first track to implement a new technique called Ultimate Sacred Fire. On its own, it would be a really good track due to the layout lending itself to consistency and is overall just a very nice way to kick off the final hub world. But with USF, it opens up avenues for top level play to be really exciting. Reserves are easily stacked up as well due to a blue turbo tunnel, meaning a long USF is not too hard to keep, even for speedrunners who are just starting out. A track that at top level just flows really, really well. A tier. Cortex Castle. In my opinion, the hardest track in the game that does not have an unintended shortcut. It's hard for newcomers as well due to the AI in this level being the hardest AI to beat in my opinion. But from a speedrunning perspective, it's incredibly satisfying to keep your reserves and play optimally as a speed character like Dingodile or Tiny for instance. But at the same time, it can still be hard with those characters due to the 90-degree turns and your turning stats really disagreeing with the tight turns. Regardless, this is still a very good track, but due to all the flatness, there is no super big emphasis on speed ghosts besides the ramp at the start, which I suppose in some ways is a nice change of pace. Beat it. Hot Air Skyway. In my opinion, the best track in the game. Lends itself to speedrunners and time trialers due to all of the unintended and flashy skips, as well as all the niche strats such as getting an SG when landing from the first shortcut. Yes, the AI can be a problem on lap 3 for the turnaround cut if you have played optimally so far, but that is technically avoidable if you have knowledge of AI pathing. As far as this track goes from a casual point of view, it still has a lot to offer by consistently throwing hard but fair challenges at you like the spiral and narrow sections. So, for me, having said all that, this is the best track in the game. Esther. Oxide Station. Another fantastic track from what is personally my favourite homeworld in the game. A great test for speedrunners who are at this late point in the game are sweating if they're on pace for a new PB. Really cool looking skips, one of the skips being too hard even for the speedrun and is therefore only done in time trials. Of course, from a casual perspective, this track is home to a final boss and in turn, this feels like a very final boss track due to its length and iconic outdoor space section. S tier, my second favourite track in the game. Slide Coliseum. For me, sadly, this is the tamest track in the game. Slide Coliseum has very little to offer, besides its unintended shortcuts which give the track some much needed depth. The fact that there are no turbo pads or ways to gain huge amounts of reserves besides drifting and jumping is very much felt if you're not an advanced player doing the before mentioned shortcuts. D tier, worst track in the game in my opinion. Turbo Track. This has always felt like filler to me, a track that always lended itself to players who understand frogging, also known as jumping by holding L1 and mashing R1 to preserve speed, as well as U-turning, and precisely no one else. A satisfying track when it goes right, especially the U-turn section, but this satisfaction will never be felt by anyone other than speedrunners and time trialers who are at the top of their game. And even then I feel like the satisfaction gone out of playing this well pales in comparison to a lot of tracks in this game that I previously mentioned. C tier. For the record, we're not done yet. Tile Trauma. For all of you that do not know what this is, there will be a link to a video in the description for you, but essentially this is CTR's first custom track that was released to the public June 10th of 2023. It's a fantastic showcase of how far this community has come, as well as how far we hope to continue to go in the coming years and decades. Maybe someday there will be enough custom tracks to warrant me remaking this list. S tier. Thank you all for watching, and do feel free to like, subscribe, and post your opinion in the comments below. I'll be reading. Take care.